And then what happened during COVID era is a lot of people figured, I think I can do a podcast. So folks who ordinarily wouldn't necessarily think of themselves being a content creator and now have their gears spinning. They're like, oh, maybe I can do a podcast. And you have a lot of people now doing research and trying to figure out, what do I need to do to create a podcast? So this YouTube video is for you. If you ever wanted to create a podcast, if you ever thought you had a podcast in you, if you ever have like a family, friends, funny folks, you guys like to banter, go back and forth, and y'all always cracking yourselves up, and you're like, you know what, we should do a show together. And they're like, yeah, we should do a show. We should do a show? Yeah, we should do a show. Let's do a show. So this is for you. I'm gonna let you know the 7 things that you need to do before you start your podcast. People. Okay, number 1. The first thing are to there to be app on that, unlike other social media. Hey, this is JJ Gat. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, I invite you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you see today. So, even though this channel, I rebranded it and refocused it on Pinterest marketing, I still like to talk to my audience every once in a while about podcasting and digital creation in other formats. So I'm going to do that today. So watch now. But first, I want to give a shout out to the recent comments that I received. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for supporting this channel as I try to grow it to 10,000. So those of you who've seen my Aaron on Demand type vision board, you know that I'm trying to grow this channel and to be a Pinterest marketing expert, your Pinterest marketing expert. For those of you who are creators, whether you are podcasters, YouTubers, vloggers, bloggers, Etsy shop owners, boutique owners, startup owners, anyone who is selling and reaching audiences, listeners, viewers online, and you need to drive traffic to your site, I want to encourage you to use Pinterest and Pinterest marketing to get those audience members. And so this is your place to come to. However, enough chatter. Let's talk about podcasting. So what happens is we are in the COVID era, and sadly, serious disease is a pandemic. It's not just affecting us, the United States. It's a global pandemic. As those of you who know, if you're watching this video, it's 2020, it's August, and it's an ongoing issue and matter. One of the consequences or side effects from coronavirus and from COVID era is that we've had to quarantine. We have to stay home, and people are having to work from home. And what a lot of people are learning as they're working from home and quarantining is they're consuming a lot of content from different formats. One of the formats that's very popular is podcasting. The reason why people love podcasts is not just because they can hear different type of topics, whether it's like they get a book on demand, they can hear a serial story about a murder that happened long ago, like a murder mystery, or they can listen to some marketing and learn something about their business, podcast, or just about dating. There's a lot of things that's great about podcasts, but what makes it a good format for a lot of folks who consume content is that they can listen to it in the background. They can listen to it while driving to work. You can listen to it while driving your kids to sports practice or to a game, that we don't have much of those these days. You can listen to it while you're cooking. You can listen to podcasts while you're doing the laundry. So it's one of those formats, those modes of communicating and modes of content that can be consumed while you're doing anything. And that's why it's a great thing, and people love podcasts. Now, what happened during COVID era is a lot of people figured, I think I can do a podcast. So folks who ordinarily wouldn't necessarily think of themselves being a content creator and now have their gears spinning. They're like, oh, maybe I can do a podcast. And you have a lot of people now doing research and trying to figure out, what do I need to do to create a podcast? So this YouTube video is for you. If you ever wanted to create a podcast, if you ever thought you had a podcast in you, if you ever have like a family, friends, funny folks, you guys like to banter, go back and forth, and y'all always cracking yourselves up, and you're like, you know what, we should do a show together. And they're like, yeah, we should do a show. We should do a show? Yeah, we should do a show. Let's do a show. So this is for you. I'm gonna let you know the 7 things that you need to do before you start your podcast. Coming now. First things first, you gotta decide audience. You can't have a podcast if you don't have anyone watching it. So of course, I may think that growing eggplants is a nice, fun activity, and I have my little container garden on my balcony, and I plant my eggplants, and I love to watch it grow, and I videotape it, and I want to share it with you. But is there an audience of people who love eggplants? Maybe no, but is there an audience of people who have container gardens, or audience of gardeners, or audience of people who would like getting outside and gardening, especially now that the weather is warm and they may do it in harvest season? Yes, that's a huge audience. Your first step is determine who is your audience. You cannot be creating content for the public unless you have public on the other side to consume your content. So that's the first thing. Who is your audience? Do some homework, decide who are you going to be reaching out to. You're going to be reaching out to millennials, you're reaching out to parents, you're reaching out to fashionista, or you're going to be reaching out to Instagram baddies. Who are you going to be reaching out to? That's your first step. It's time for number 2, huh? Number 2, took some notes. The second thing is format. So you've seen different contexts. There's several different formats, but the 2 most popular ones is, one is when there's just a host, and perhaps a host and a co-host, maybe it's a panel, and they're just talking shop, and they're just talking about politics, or they're just talking about pop culture topics, or they're just talking about, I don't know, dating, or they're talking about addiction recovery. So it's just people who are the host or the co-host, and they're just talking. The thing about that is, you're going to be doing that type of format, you have to have a personality. You can't be boring, you can't be drone, you have to have some sort of life, because people aren't looking at you, and so you have to have inflection in your voice and energy, and whoever is in your team, you guys have to maybe have someone who's funny, and maybe someone who's really, really informative, but you have to be entertaining if you're going to do that format. The second format, which is harder and easier, it's easier into the form of you don't have to do as much work, is if you are doing an interview type. Listen to Michaela McCormick Matthews has a podcast. So she interviews Black women entrepreneurs who've been successful, who were it's a side hustle pro, that's the name of it. I'll put it here. So she interviews them, and so every week she has a really great dynamic woman who has been successfully launched her side hustle into a professional full-time gig. So she has guests. Every once in a while she does solo episodes. For the most part, she is a show where she interviews people. So you have those types of podcasts. There are other kinds, but those are the 2 most popular ones when it's just, you're just talking for startups. Because the third kind is a little bit more advanced, is serialized ones, where it's like, for example, Serial, for example, there's a murder mystery, or there's a court case, and so there's episodes, there's a beginning, a middle, and the end, and they divide up one podcast into several episodes, and people binge watch or binge listen and listen to all of it. But for the most part, it's one thing, versus a podcast, you just have seasons. We're just talking stuff, and you take a break. You might do like 10 episodes, and you take a break and come back. So there's no really beginning, end, and done. It's like an ongoing, sort of like TV, how TV has different series. So determine the format, what you want to do. The third thing you need to do is pick a platform. So I am going to go ahead and tell you from my standpoint and give you my limited experience. I had a blog talk radio format, which is kind of like a podcast, long time ago when that platform was just created. We talked politics with a friend of mine from journalism school. We are smart, we think we're smart, so we went to journalism school, so a lot of it was intuitive. So that platform was set up so anybody in the world can have their own radio show, an online radio show, and so we were one of thousands. You can still find that radio show, actually. You can still find it, still on the platform. You can still find the episodes around. It might come back to haunt me later. But anyway, that is a platform that was very easy and turnkey. The second one that I used when I had my own little 10-minute podcast, I'll link it here as well. In that podcast, I use SoundCloud, and even though SoundCloud's known for where you go to like listen, DJs upload their mixes, and some artists, up-and-coming artists and some established artists put their new music on that platform. It's also a platform where you can actually listen to podcasts. And so I use this app called Audiocopy, which I'll put here, Audiocopy, where I can just open up my phone, take some notes, and then it'll automatically send it to SoundCloud. And SoundCloud at that time, I think it still is, was integrated well with iTunes. So it was a quick, easy way for me to do a quick 10-minute podcast, upload onto SoundCloud, it goes straight to the iTunes store, and boom, I have a podcast, and people can download it. And I didn't integrate it with Google Play, but I'm sure you can integrate it with Google Play as well, or any other podcasting platforms. So those are the only 2 I know. I'm not an expert, but you should go do your own research and find out what other platforms. Since then, I'm sure there's more Play FM, there's different podcast platforms out there that you can do research on, find yourself. Good luck. It's not my expertise, full disclosure. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing you need to do is equipment. Now I mentioned I use Blog Talk when I did my SoundCloud platform, SoundCloud radio podcast. I didn't necessarily need a mic because I use Audiocopy app. And what I was able to do is just talk on my phone. And miraculously, luckily, because the quality of smartphones and the microphones of smartphones are so advanced, it sounded pretty good. It was really good quality, not like something like, iPhone 4 or BlackBerry quality sound. Sound was really great, and I was talking directly into the phone, and I would just leave my message and upload it. So it wasn't perfect quality, it wasn't radio quality, but it was very crisp and clear. Now, I don't know if that format would work if I was doing an interview kind. I was just like a solo host. I just interviewed myself. I just talked. But if I was interviewing someone or had to patch through a call and do it that way, I'm not quite sure if that would work. So what you do is, for people who do other kinds of more traditional ones, they buy a mic. I have a Rode mic. I was supposed to plug that in. I hope the sound sounds good because I forgot to plug in my Rode mic. But I have a Rode mic, and then you also have other mics out there that you can get. There's one that's really popular. I can't, it's escaping me, but I'll put it right here. Anyway, so you get a mic is the main thing, and then you can get some software equipment, some editing equipment, because after you record, the hard part, the labor-intensive, time-consuming part is editing it. Whew. Anyway, so yeah, so you get a mic, you get equipment. So again, research the equipment you need for the podcast. There's Google, there's lots of resources on YouTube. This video is not to tell you what you need to do specifically. I'm just telling you what you need to do, not how to do it. I don't know. So that's just the fourth thing is you get the equipment. The fifth thing you need to do is schedule. So whether you are a podcaster, blogger, YouTuber, vlogger, usually those people, anyone who's creating content on a regular basis, it's a good idea to have an editorial calendar. And the reason why it's a good idea to have an editorial calendar, I do weekly editorial calendars, and I have a monthly outlook, and you want to be talking about trends. For me, for a blogger, but then also weekly, you plan out what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. As you come up with ideas, you see stuff on TV, or as you pass through other podcasters, other folks who are creating content, YouTube, whatever, and there's a topic that interests you, you jot it down and you put it in your plan to later on talk about that topic. So the editorial calendar is essential, like in your life, you have a plan in your life. When you have to go to the grocery store, you have a dentist appointment come up, you have to go see your kids, you have a PTA meeting, whatever is going on in your life, you put that down in a planner. So similar, when you're doing you're creating content, you need an editorial calendar to plan out your life. I'll put a link to an editorial planner that I use. I'm gonna update it because I need to make my planners a little bit more beautiful. I have like some simple ones I created, but they're not really that attractive. So I'm gonna update them to make them more attractive since I'm selling them on my page. Anyway, I'll put the one down and you can get it. It's really cheap, it's like $7. Anyway, so you get your editorial calendar so you know what you're saying. So you need a calendar. And the other reason why you need a calendar is because you need to determine in your editorial calendar when you're going to record your podcast, what time you're going to edit it. Because once you record it, you want to have like a turnaround time. You want to definitely edit it. Because if you wait too long, you're not going to want to do it. Your podcast is going to fall by the wayside. The hardest part and the most time consuming part is editing. So you have to put in your time in your life. Block out time in your life to go edit your podcast. Or get someone to edit it for you if you're going to use like Fiverr. And I'll put a link to Fiverr where you can get someone remotely to help you do it. Or if you know someone who can do it for you. Then you have to also put in time for when you're going to publish it. Just like if you have a YouTube channel, just like if you have a blog or a vlog or television show that comes on regularly, you're more likely to get audiences and gain subscribers and downloads if they know that your podcast is going to release episodes at a specific time every day of the week. Because when they know that, they're looking for it, they'll listen for it. It's kind of like the TV show. I mean, now it's a little bit different because we have on demand, but back in the day, a long time ago, Wednesdays at 4, your favorite television show is going to come on at 8 o'clock. So you looked for it. And so similarly, you're going to grow an audience, you need to have a specific time. So determine in your editorial calendar when you're going to record, when you're going to edit, and what time you're going to be publishing your content. And the other thing related to time, I think that's That's it. Those are the 3 things. There may be something else, but if you're booking and interviewing people, that's another thing. If you're going to do the type of podcast where you're interviewing folks, you need to also put in the time that you're going to interview people. Like, for example, with my blog, I don't have a podcast, but and I never had a podcast where I had guests, but in my blog, every once in a while, not often, but I do interview people for articles. So because I have limited bandwidth, because I'm doing this and I have a blog, and then I had other ventures that I'm involved with that are time consuming, I don't have much bandwidth to be interviewing people, seriously. But every once in a while I find something fascinating and someone slips through the crack and I'm like, I'd like to talk to you. So I have one specific time during the week that if I do interviews, I block off, that's my interview time. So I have nothing else going on that time. I have no dentist appointment scheduled that time. I don't have any kids to take. I have no kids program. I have nothing going on that time that's going to take up that time. So that's the time that I plug in my podcast for interviews. So have that 1 or 2 times. And also if you're interviewing people, you have to be flexible with their schedule, but it is good to give them first to say, hey, here are the 2 times I do interviews. Can you accommodate one of those 2? So that way you're controlling it a little bit. So that's it. So that's the schedule portion of it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th thing you can do, I mentioned guests, is identify guests. If you're doing this only really applies if you're doing the guest format. Before you start, you want to identify 4 or 5 people who will be willing to come in your podcast, and start chasing them down now and telling them and getting their schedules so you can have the time and scheduling time to interview them. I once was a co-panel on a radio show. It was an actual radio show. I'll put a link to it here. It was called Coming to America with Wayna. It may come back. It was on DC Radio and WHUR HD4, Howard University Radio. Came on at 8 o'clock in the evenings, and what we did was interview various different people from the diaspora who live in America, or just because we're all immigrants from Africa, or from the Caribbean, or just African American actually on the panel, and we just interview people from the diaspora about their lives and about the experience of coming to America, or the experience, cross-cultural experiences. Anyway, long story short, that was a big time consumer, identifying people to interview and booking in and dealing with their agents and booking folks to come in. So if you are doing that type of interview, that type of podcast, you need to be aware that that's something you need to hammer down early on, right? So that's the 6 things. And the 7th is the most important. You can talk to yourself and your partners, and you can talk, on this wonderful equipment that you've purchased. Talk to yourself on your expensive mic and your equipment till you're blue. And you can put it up on iTunes and the Play Store and Play FM and all those other nice places, and it would sit there. Just the way there are millions of books in the bookshelf in the libraries, thousands and thousands of blogs on the blog sphere. The YouTube that you're watching this on has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels and YouTube content, and there they sit, a lot of them, like this channel sometimes, not getting anyone watching it. So if you want someone to watch it, the most important thing is marketing. And I think before you do your podcast, before you plan it, one part of your early stage of planning is to identify people who you know in your sphere of influence or your sphere of connections that have people who already have big like Twitter following or Instagram. I mean, whether you pay them, whether you just barter them, or whether they're gonna do us a favor and say, hey, well, I'm about to launch this channel, can you big me up or whatever. If it's not a big ask, it's somebody you're close to and they say, yeah, sure. If not, you may have to purchase and pay for 100, 200, whatever they cost on one of these popular YouTube channels to drop that you're having a channel coming down. It's an investment. Or you may have to do some other sort of outreach, but you gotta have a marketing plan. And you have to be able to use social media and prepare before you do the podcast, because you have to have a plan of who's going to help you market it, who's going to promote it. After each podcast released, you have to let people on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, all these different platforms know. And I know there's a school of thought that says you pick one format, and that's what I'm really doing. I'm really just sticking to Pinterest myself personally. And there's a school of thought that says when you were first starting, pick one format and master that format. Grow a community in that format. Grow a following in that format. And then when you're done mastering that format and you're ready to go to another social media platform, you tell your people, your large audience, like this in my Pinterest, for example, I have about 13,000 followers. I tell them, it doesn't work that way, but let's say it did work that way. I would tell my 13,000 followers on Pinterest, hey, I now have a channel, or I'm on Instagram, now follow me over there. So all those 13,000 people, I'm gonna get a bunch of them to go over to Instagram. So when I do launch my thing on Instagram, I instantly have followers. And that's why a lot of people do, who that's a school of thought, because it works. And then just say, okay, now I'm on Twitter, come follow me on Twitter. Okay, now I'm on LinkedIn, come follow me there. And so that's one way of doing it, and I think that's a good way that works. Another school of thought, when this might work better when you're first starting out, is just be everywhere. Just have a plan. I use Viral Tag. I'll put a link to Viral Tag below. I use Viral Tag because that allows me to, with one switch, with one click, schedule out 4 or 5, like, so I have like I have like 4 or 5 different net channels, 4 or 5 different websites and different channels and different Facebook groups, Facebook pages and Twitter pages and Instagram and LinkedIn. You can in one click schedule to go to all those different places at once. So that's like a really great tool. That's why I love Viral Tag. I love it. If you learn anything from this video, is get Viral Tag. Go down there and get my link. I don't even know if I'm affiliated with them, I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. Get Viral Tag. That's the best way to mass promote your thing to lots of people, and your followers, because it's whoever's following you. But then once you hit follow, you can tell your sphere of influence, your connects, your friends, your family, hey, can you retweet my last tweet, or can you reshare my last Facebook post, whatever like that. So get Viral Tag. But anyway, so you mass promote on social media to a lot of different things. Get your friends to do it. Mass promote it after you publish it. But before you get to that point, you really need to set up a system. Get Viral Tag. Also set up a system or connect with people who are following to make sure that you can market and people know about it. And then that's it. That's the 7 things to do a podcast. But the hardest thing is creating wonderful content that people like and want to see and want to come back. So while you're there, make sure whether you're trying to inspire people, motivate, educate, inform, edify, instruct, whatever you're going to do with your time when you're doing your podcast, while you're behind that mic talking to people, you want to give off a feeling that they're going to connect with you. This is 21. Oh my God, this is 21 minutes. 6. I want this to be this long. But anyway, starting a podcast is important, so it's okay if this is long. So whatever feeling you want to emote, you want people to leave with, you want people to leave better, forward and inspired and motivated and want to change their life because they listen to you in that podcast. And so that's what you want to leave with. You want to leave people with a really good feeling, like, oh my God, that was a great podcast. I can't wait till the next episode. And that's how you establish a community. And then there's another thing that says SEO. Those are tricks and those are ways of using the algorithm to boost your content out there. But that's like a whole nother training session. But that's important too, other than building a community. But anyway, so that was it. I hope that walkthrough was helpful for you. Did not want it to be this long, but sometimes it has to be that way. So you know that I have experience from this because I was a co-panelist on a real radio show that aired broadcast over the radio on FM radio and FM HD radio. And I had my own 10-minute podcast. And I had a blog talk radio podcast with a friend. So I had 3 different types of on-air sort of communication with people, and some of it that I did on my own. I did a lot of work. I did the booking, engaged with other people, interview folks. So I have experience in this. So I know what I'm talking about. So I hope that's helpful for you. Anyway, this is JJ Gatz. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, share this with anyone who knows who's gonna, and say, hey, this girl JJ, she knows what she's talking about. You need to follow her channel because she's gonna get you right. She gonna get me right. She's gonna get you right. I'm gonna get you right. Stick with me. Take care. Bye. Love you. Mwah. Mwah. Bye. That's it. I'm done. Done my 2 videos. Now I gotta finish my blog.